So it's recording you right now?
It is.
Yeah, it's live.
It is definitely recording. What's up, you guys? Welcome to another Facebook Live conversation. I have a beautiful guest with me today, and I'm so excited for this conversation. I am just gonna get some people in the room before we get started. So just have a little patience with me while I send these invites. All right. If you guys are on the live already, go ahead and drop in the comments where you are tuning in from. Definitely like to, know who our audience is, who we're able to touch, who we're able to inspire, and who we're able to reach. I've had people all the way from, the East Coast. The East Coast. I even had somebody from Egypt, from Dubai, and all these other cool places. So, all right. Let me go ahead and all right.
Hi.
What's up, guys? I hope that you guys are ready for an amazing conversation. For those of you who don't know, this is Miss Delia Green, aka Delia Quiñones. This girl has been a part of my life for my whole life, and
Not just because we're family, because we're friends too.
yes, definitely. She's somebody who I've always looked up to. She's my older cousin.
You just had to throw that in there.
She's my cousin. I can't rewind that. But she's somebody who really inspires me because, coming from where we've come from, she's been able to create a beautiful life for herself and for her family. And, I just really want to give her a platform to be able to share that in hopes that her story, our story, will be able to inspire somebody, be able to, inflict change, evoke good decisions with other people. And, it just really makes me proud to know her because, she's a great mother. She's a great teacher. She has her own school. She has a business with her husband. And, it's just been an incredible journey to watch her grow. And one of the things that I really want to share with you guys is that she's writing a book. That's not a secret, right?
It is a secret, but I kind of had a feeling you were going to mention it. I had a feeling, but yes.
So be on the lookout for that, you guys, because it's going to be so dope. This girl has just a way with words. So, the conversation that we're going to get into today has to do with trauma. We all have it. And, we've experienced it in one way or another. Whether you were bullied, whether you were mentally abused,
Traumatized,
physically abused, sexually abused. There's so many different forms of trauma, and we're going to talk about it today. So, Del.
Okay, let's talk about it.
I want you to really tell the people who you are in your own story and, why you agreed to this conversation.
I agreed to the conversation because anyone who has known me knows that I'm a very private person. I struggle privately. I work through my mess privately. I share a lot, but so much I keep private. Yeah. And so it's like, I'm just, guided by my intuition. Like, oh, maybe should I share this, and stuff like that. I have been through a lot of trauma in my life. It's like, I don't even know where to start. But currently, I have my husband and our family, our kids. We have 6 kids together. We have a grandbaby. And like you said, we run our own business. I'm working on my book, and my book is what started it all. Like, I was going to therapy and just cleaning out so much garbage and mess that I didn't realize I had inside my spirit and inside my body. Yeah. And my body was responding to old trauma, and I didn't know what was going on. I thought I was going crazy. I'm like, why is this happening to me? And my therapist was telling me that your body is harboring trauma and you need to release it. And so I decided to write a book and speak my truth and my experiences and how I'm healing through them.
That's
and
awesome. So it's going to be an extended version of this conversation.
Yeah.
And
very, very, very detailed. And I think that's what was important, because I feel like this conversation is really hot.
Yeah.
And so people will dab in it and then like quickly try to change conversation.
Yes.
They don't want to talk about it. It's like, ooh, I don't know. That's going to hit a soft spot. I don't want, let's not even go there.
Right.
So in my book, it's very, very, very detailed. And it, I'm kind of nervous on how people are going to perceive it and accept it. But like Bobby says, and like my therapist has told me, this is my truth.
Yeah.
And I'm not writing this book for anyone else. No one can buy it. It doesn't matter.
Right.
That's not the purpose.
Yeah.
It's for me
Yeah.
to let go.
Yeah.
And hope and pray that it helps other people do the same.
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah.
And so with that being said, you guys, I just kind of want to put a disclaimer out there that, anything that is said in this conversation isn't to offend anyone, isn't,
Yes.
to poke jabs at anybody. This is us just telling our story and our truth. And so I don't want anybody to take anything to heart. If something doesn't resonate with you the right way, just take what you need and throw out the rest. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So with that being said, I love what you said about writing because writing has been such an outlet for me. I've always kind of been a writer, but as I really started on this journey as well, I realized that when I write, it helps me to articulate myself and really process the feelings that I'm going through and put them into the right words. So I'm super excited for you to be on this journey and for you to be writing your book, because I know that there's so much healing in that.
It's good. It's messy.
Oh yeah.
Messy, but it's good.
Oh yeah.
It's good. It's refreshing.
I feel like sometimes the healing part of it can be messier than actually going through it.
Girl, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean,
100 times that.
Even
yes.
just deciding to face it alone, and then everything that you've gone through, you have to bottle up and then kind of just relive that when you decide that you want to change or that you want to heal from it. So
that's huge. That is huge. That's why people don't like talking about it. That's why people don't want to deal with trauma, because you're opening that wound and you're dealing with it all over again.
yes, we like to bury things.
All over. Oh,
I think we were talking about it, like how we said that some of our childhood is blacked out. Like we've blocked things to the point where people are like, oh yeah, you did this to me, and I'm, oh, for real? I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I've always been so nice.
I'm a who?
Right. I don't know that person. What are you talking about?
Yeah. And so that was big for me, is my memory is very patchy.
Yeah.
But since I'm unveiling and pulling back layers, it's like, oh wow. And I remember the memory so vividly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh wow, I didn't even know I remember that. That's so crazy. And as the layers come out and the more safe I feel,
Yeah.
the more messier it gets.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is a great process. I feel lighter, and I feel like it's important for people to just take that step.
Oh, absolutely. So let's start from the beginning then.
Okay.
So tell me about your childhood, what that looked like for you, how you grew up, and just some of the traumas that you've experienced.
Okay. I knew you were going to ask that question. And that's a very uncomfortable question for me, typically. I feel like I surface answer things. I'm like, oh, I grew up in Stockton, like I moved around a lot. I went to a lot of different elementary schools. Like I don't really get into it. But so I grew up in Stockton with my mom. My dad was separated since before I was born. I lived with my mom, and from what I can't remember a lot of things, but I do know that I suffered from every single trauma there is, literally. So when you start doing therapy, they ask you questions, and it doesn't say, oh, were you emotionally abused or mentally abused or whatever. They ask you other questions and you answer them. And according to all those questions they answered that they asked me, I was
All across the board.
all across the board, trauma, physically, emotionally, mentally, sexually, every single abuse category that you can think of, I experienced a high volume of. Not just, oh, that happened to me one time. No, that was my entire childhood was full of all those traumas day in and day out. I don't want to get too much into it because that is part of my book, and so yeah, I mean that's it.
Okay. And I'll just give you kind of my perspective too about the way that we grew up, because we really grew up together.
Oh yeah. Well, it should not to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but so like I lived with my mom and my dad, and then when I was, I think about 9, my mom went to prison, and so when my mom went to prison, I moved with like my aunts, my uncles. I lived with you for a little bit.
Yeah.
My dad. I lived with my boyfriend, quote unquote, for a little bit. Just to whoever was willing to take on the burden of raising me at the time.
Yeah.
So, and then eventually in 10th grade, I ended up at my Theo Tooney's house. And I remember this so vividly. It was like just a huge impact on my life. And he had said, Mija, this is your home. He told me, he said, I don't care what you did yesterday. I don't care what you've done in your life. He's like, that does not concern me. Mm-hmm. He's like, today, right now, is a fresh new start. Make the best of it. I don't care what you did. Yeah. I don't care who you did wrong. I don't care. None of that matters to me.
Yeah.
Just move forward from here on out.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I literally cried for like hours when he said that to me, because I never felt that support from anyone in my life.
Yeah.
So I lived with my Theo, graduated, and then I was all over the place. Like I was never, ever, ever in a stable environment until I met my husband and we decided to grow roots. We were trying to count. I think I went to about 12 different elementary schools.
Oh, wow.
I went through 6 middle schools, which is only 2 grades, and I went through 4 different high schools. So
that must have been rough.
I've been all over the place. So there you go. There's a little bit of my childhood and how I grew up.
Thanks for elaborating. I appreciate that.
Sorry.
Ash, I see your question. The book does not have a title yet, but stay watching on my page, and when it drops, you'll know. I promise. So, another perspective to my childhood. They're just us living together and being together. I mean, I felt like, us growing up together, we kind of were like each other's saviors, like we were just die hard, like,
I got you.
Yeah, because like she said, we didn't get that from anywhere else. And so our cousins were really, the ones who were our backbone, the people who we went to for support. And so you have kids raising kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
You definitely raise each other. And then, with that, all of the things that we experienced, a majority of our family were gangbangers or gang affiliated or different things. But it was really, really, it was a very tough environment for anybody to be in, let alone kids. And so, a lot of things we did was to protect each other, and we were just pretty much in survival mode.
I feel like looking back, the stronger ones were protected of me.
Yeah.
So like, you're my younger cousin, but you were always ready. You were like, don't mess with Del, because I'm super, super in tuned and very sensitive. And Okay, I do let people take advantage of me a lot. So her and my younger sister were always ready. They were like
we were the fighters. We were
like
the fighters.
Bulldogs, literally. All my cousins, Yvonne too. Like they were always ready to protect me. I think as a parent would be to protect their child.
Yeah.
You know, it was that kind of love. Like I'm safe with Jen, even though she was my younger cousin. Like she's got me. Like regardless of what's going on in my life, I know that I can come to her.
Down.
Yeah. And I'm not talking
Who
about
wants to get it? Yes, we are talking about that.
I'm not just talking about fighting. I'm talking about in general.
Yeah.
Like
whatever I have, you have.
Yeah.
You know, if you need a place to stay, you got a place to stay.
Jen, come get me. I'm in this situation.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. Okay. So awesome. Great response, Del. I appreciate you sharing all of that. So now we're going to dive a little bit deeper. So,
oh goodness,
those traumas that you experienced, you know, what type of effect did that have on your life? And, you know, what type of behaviors were you exhibiting after the traumas took place?
I feel like growing up, I was very closed off. Because when you're little and you experience trauma, you kind of numb it out. Your body's like, your body is like, what am I going to do to survive? How am I going to get through this? Mm-hmm. If you sit in that trauma, you're not gonna be able to survive. You have to numb it out. You have to throw it under the carpet. Survival you have mode. To just go. Yeah. Like it doesn't matter. Yeah. Like, oh, this happened to me 2 hours ago. Get over it. Keep going. Like that's what happens when you're raised that way. You have to just keep going. Yeah. So I think that affected my life. And I didn't start realizing that it was a problem until I started being in serious relationships where I numb things out or I have attachment issues really, really, really badly. So when I love, I hold on. Yeah. And I'm like, hold. And that's suffocating to people. So I have issues with trust. I have issues with love. Well, I had issues, huge issues with love. Yeah. Making connections with other people, genuine connections. Everybody I kept at arm's length because every important person in my life has hurt me. Yeah. So no, I'm sorry, you can't come in my circle. I don't trust you. Mm-hmm. So my childhood trauma eventually started to bleed over everyone around me, regardless if I really wanted it to or not. It was getting too big and heavy to carry. And I'm like, no, don't drip. You know, like stop. Yeah. Stop poking out, you know, like don't show any kind of weakness. Just be strong and go. Yeah. And in the end, I mean, that's so unhealthy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can relate to some of the things that you said, you know, as far as, you know, relationships and things like that. I was telling you earlier, like in my relationships, like, you know, a lot of the adults that raised me weren't emotionally available. And so that's kind of leaked over into my adult life to where the men that I've been attracted to, even as of late, you know, the people who I've been in relationships with or that I've gotten really close with or allowed myself to get really close with are men who were really emotionally unavailable. And, you know, I get upset about it and, you know, I'm like, well, why is this person like this?
But it's because you're not knowing that that's your habit.
Right. Yeah. And I'm just like, and, you know, just even, you know, evaluating my relationships, I kind of just figured this out. I mean, kind of, but not really. Yeah. With each relationship, I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know, my first relationship was crazy toxic. So, you know, physical abuse, mental abuse, verbal abuse. I mean, everything, right? So then my relationship after that, I was like, oh, okay, well, he doesn't hit me. This is okay. This is better, you know? But there was verbal abuse. There was mental abuse and a lot of manipulation and things like that. And, you know, just even with people who I think are great people, they still might not be emotionally available. So that's you know, one of the things that I've noticed, you know, just lately and in my adult life, how my childhood trauma has kind of rolled over into my adulthood. And so dealing with that, and you know, even with my kids, you know, dealing with that, being a parent, and really just wanting to be the best when you know, I'm going to say this, that our parents didn't know how to be parents because their parents didn't know how to be parents.
100%.
And, you know, so they did what they knew, you know, and our parents weren't shown love. Our parents were just...
Just so you know, my mom and her mom are sisters.
Yes.
So that's how we're cousins.
Yeah. So they grew up in a loveless household, and you know, my dad, the same thing. My grandmother on my father's side was just very, very, you know, she made it clear when she didn't like you. And you know,
is that where we get it from?
But we don't do that to kids anymore. But you know, she did it to us, you know. My grandmother on my father's side didn't like us because she didn't like my mother, and I don't think that she liked my father either. And so, you know, that poured into them, and because they weren't shown love, I wasn't shown love. My brothers and sisters weren't shown love. But, you know, thank God, you know, for my mother, that both of our mothers have really just accepted, you know, that truth. And both of them grew from that. And now they're just the best grandparents.
Yeah.
They hug people. They tell people they love them. And so, you know, those are just some of the things that I experienced as far as the traumas and how that affected my life. But when did you realize that your behaviors were trauma responses? Because we just go, right?
Yeah.
You're in that fight or flight mode, and you're just kind of doing things to survive. So
I feel that's a good question. I feel like I've always known. I feel like I'm numb to this because of my trauma inside. Like I would think that, like, because I would be like, why am I not having feelings for this? Or why am I overly feeling in this area? Along with what you said, relationships. I think that was the biggest eye opener for me. Yeah. Is because I wanted to give love. I felt it. Yeah. But I wasn't giving it properly. Yeah. Like what I was trying to give was not being perceived. Yeah. And I'm like, and that relationship didn't last. And that really hurt me. It's like, because what I was trying to give wasn't being perceived. And that's super frustrating for anyone. You know, like when you're trying to get a point across and that's not what the other person is receiving. And I'm like, okay, there's a problem. The behaviors that I'm exhibiting are not healthy.
Yeah. Because we're like at a point where we're just like, no, look, I'm telling you I love you, so I love you. Yes. It doesn't matter how I behave because this is how I love you.
Yeah, like the words coming out of my mouth is what I mean. Right. And it's like, but my behaviors were not exhibiting that at all. And that really broke me. Like, okay, Del, there's a problem somewhere in here. Yeah. Let's try and figure it out. And I was relationship. Like I never gave myself enough time to not be in a relationship. I was always wanting to be in a relationship. So how my whole thing panned out, I was with Bobby when I started my healing process.
Bobby's her husband.
Bobby is my husband. And we've been together for 15 years. And he needed his, a long story, but he needed his own type of healing. I needed my own type of healing. And we decided to do that together. We decided, I love you, you love me, but what we're doing isn't working. Let's try and figure it out. Yeah. So we went to marriage counseling. And not because we had a problem, it was because we were looking how to be better. Like we were looking on what can we do to be better? What can I do to be a better spouse? What can I do to be a better wife? And then that was very short lived for Bobby. Like he was like, I got this all figured out, which he does. So he just had very minor things to deal with, but within that, it opened up so much for me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, I'm the toxic one. Oh man, I'm the one with the problem. Oh man, I'm the one with the unresolved issues, the trauma, the trauma responses that are affecting my whole life. So I think relationships is what opened that. And what made me really want to change and be different is when I had my son Damien. Yeah. I wanted to give that boy the world.
Yeah.
The world. And I have. I have changed.
She absolutely has. Her kids are amazing.
Changed so much for him. It started with him.
Yeah.
And then of course for my other kids too, but it started with him. It started with mommy needs to heal what's inside of her because I want you to be the best version of yourself. And I want you to have a happy, healthy, loving mom. Yeah. And I know that I couldn't give that without healing myself because my parents didn't give that to me because they weren't healed within themselves. Yeah. And their parents probably couldn't give that to them because they weren't healed either. Right. Everybody's just surviving.
Yep.
Surviving.
Breaking generational curses.
Brushing it under the carpet. And I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm done with that. I don't want to live my life like that. Yeah. I want to be happy, like genuinely happy.
Right. Not just surface happy.
Yeah. Like deep down.
Spiritually.
Yes. Spiritually happy.
Yeah.
And so I knew I had to do work. And so as, I feel good and I feel happy inside. But girl, my son's 16 years old and I've been working on it since he was born. Yeah. So the process is long.
Oh man. For real. And you kind of already answered my question was like, when did you realize that you needed to heal or that you had these traumas that you needed to heal from? For me, I had 2 kids by the time I was 19 years old. I was married. I was in a very, very toxic relationship. And, it wasn't until probably about 5 or 6 years ago that I really just hit rock bottom, left the relationship that I was in because, I wasn't lucky enough to have somebody to support that journey. But, it kind of started there. Like, at the end of our relationship, I was like, I really want to go to church. I want to find God. There's just something missing, right? And I wanted to be able to show my kids something different because by then my kids were already like 8 and 9 years old. And, even though there wasn't any physical abuse, there was a lot of yelling and things like that. And, just when there was arguments, seeing the kids run to their room and stuff like that. It was just, that was my turning point. That's where I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore.
Well, and you know what that feels like.
Oh, yeah.
You know what they were feeling. And you're like, no.
Yeah. I was like, I don't want to repeat the cycle. I don't want my kids to grow up and think that this is a healthy lifestyle. I didn't want my kids to get in relationships, especially my daughters, to get in these relationships with these men who mistreat them and don't appreciate them and, just really treat them dirty. And so I really, if it wasn't for my kids, I would probably still be in those relationships.
100% girl.
Absolutely. So my kids are definitely my why as far as why the journey started. Because I just, it's different with daughters. It's definitely different. And I wanted to be able to love them too, because I found that just coming from parents who didn't know how to really hug or say I love you or things like that, like I found myself doing the same thing. It was weird for me to hug my kids.
Yeah,
like,
I get it.
I was like, I want to be able to hug my kids. Like, I feel that with my oldest daughter, with Nevaeh. Like, she's my oldest. She got the tough stuff, right? Yeah. She really got to grow up with me, and I felt bad seeing, the way that had affected her, because unfortunately I didn't realize that a change needed to happen until it had already started to affect her. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to be the type of parent who turned that around. And it's definitely still a work in progress.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's
Yeah.
still hard. But I think every day it gets better and better. And with these conversations, it helps even more. And even having these conversations with them and acknowledging the behaviors and, you know, being able to go back and apologize. Like, you know what? I was broken.
Yeah.
And now I'm healing and I apologize.
And babies are so forgiving.
They are.
So forgiving.
Because you're their hero. We're their
Yeah.
heroes. You know, and I really wanted to, I mean, in a way, I wouldn't change it because they've been able to see the transformation. They've been able to be like, oh, you know what? Mom used to be super mean, because they'll bring it up all the time. Oh, Mom, remember when you did this or that? You're like, look, I'm saved.
I'm right with Jesus now. Don't
Right.
bring that up. My past is cleansed.
But he also said, spare the rod, spoil the child. You know, so that's just, you know, some things for me in my experience. So,
Yeah.
let's talk about the effects of trauma, you know, surviving the childhood trauma, the unforgiveness, the anger, the bitterness that comes with it, and how it really affects mental health. Because that's a big thing. You know, I see, especially right now, I think after COVID, people had a long time to sit with themselves and some things came up. And
Yes.
you see suicide is at an all-time high and things like that. So let's talk about those types of effects and what that looked like for you.
Since I'm being completely honest here, there has been a handful of times where I have thought maybe it's just better not being here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cry.
Sorry, we got
But
tissue.
Damien is the one who always just like kept me grounded, you know, like I wanted to be better for him. Because it's like, it hurts so much, you know, your trauma is heavy and it hurts. And sometimes it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And the sadness is so deep and so at your core, it doesn't feel like there's a way out.
Right.
It doesn't feel like
get
there's any
so-
other options.
Right.
Except out.
Yeah.
Out. And there has been so many times where I have just wanted to be out.
Yeah.
So I always tell Damien, you know, you saved my life, right? Because he did.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, he did. And so forever and ever and ever, you know, he's, thank you. He is my light and shining armor, but, trauma like that you experience, and when you remember it and when it comes up, it's heavy.
Yeah.
It can be so heavy. You mentioned something. You had said, what was your question again? Because I had
The effects of trauma, surviving childhood trauma, the unforgiveness.
The unforgiveness was
Yes.
that's what I wanted to talk about. For me, I don't have any unforgiveness. None. Like, wholeheartedly, I have none. And I think that's why I'm still here. Is because if I were to carry that unforgiveness, it would have been heavier.
I think that's what kind of keeps it going. You know, when you hold on to these things and you don't forgive, it's like what they say, you don't forgive the other person. You forgive them, but you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for you. Because when you hold on to the things that happened and what they've done, or, you know, what's happened, even forgiving yourself is just a beautiful thing, because, whatever you are harboring, whatever you are holding on to, that's what you're giving power to. So I think forgiveness is probably one of the first steps in
And
the
that
healing.
is like my superpower. Like my superpower. Like I could be like giving people a dirty look and then them be like, oh, hey, what's up? I want to be your friend. And I'm like, because that's just who I am. I'm so forgiving. Like, I do not hold grudges. That is not who I am. That is not who I want to be ever. You know, so it's like let's use my mom, for example. I know that she feels regretful for the things that she didn't know. And I don't care. I'm like, Mom, I don't care. I forgave you 100 years ago. So you forgive yourself, because I'm not holding any grudges.
Yes.
Like, because that hinders my growth. people who mentally abused me, sexually abused me, physically abused me, all those things, every single one of them, Jen, I wholeheartedly have forgiven.
Yeah.
I feel that's why I live such a free, happy life.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I'm not stuck on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think forgiveness is such a huge, huge part of the healing process.
Yeah.
I also think that mental health is shamed.
Yeah.
You know, I think people think it's a sign of weakness. Like, oh, you went through that. Who cares? Get over it. Be better.
Oh, yeah.
That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Anyone who's been through trauma knows that that's not how it works at
Right.
all. You can't just be like, oh, okay, I'm over it. You know, I'm not tripping off of it. Wait until it wakes you up in the middle of the night because you're having a nightmare. And all those feelings are just on you.
Yeah.
Then what? You have no other choice but to deal with it.
Yeah.
So, forgiveness is key. Mental health is so important. I always say, let's just talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. And literally, so many people in my family, besides you, are so closed off to let's talk about it.
Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I do this is, you know, it's not just for me. It's a way for me to reach other people, to help other people, because I feel like that's just, you know, part of my purpose. But it's like I said, you know, when we do things, like I told Del, she was one of the first people that I seen start this journey. And at the very beginning, I didn't understand it because I was still there. And I was like, oh, well, who does she think she is? And like, oh, she just thinks that she's all Miss Perfect now, right? But now that I'm on the journey, I get it and I understand. And when you do things, you give other people permission to do the same. And so that's what I'm hoping to do for our family, for our kids, for, you know, anybody who really needs it.
Absolutely.
We want to be able to just invite
Normalize.
that. Yeah.
Normalize healing.
Exactly.
Normalizing saying that it's okay that your childhood was this, and this, and this.
Yeah.
As ugly as it may be, as ugly as it was, as ugly as your truth is,
Yeah.
it still belongs to you, and there's still healing behind it. There's a possibility that you can be happy, you can be free, you can
Right.
smile, you can genuinely enjoy the sunrise and the sunset.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much more to life than it being surviving.
Yeah. And I really just want to touch on that forgiveness thing again, because like I said, I really think that that's the first step, because when you can learn to forgive, you're not only letting go of what happened, but you're letting go of the anger, the bitterness, the resentment, the mental torment that you put yourself through for holding on to those things, right?
Right.
So, you know, if you can do anything every morning.
Genuine forgiveness, though, not surface forgiveness. There's a huge difference.
Yeah.
It has to come from within your spirit, within your soul, within your bones, within your mind, within your body. Like every being of you
Yeah.
needs to forgive that person, that thing. My biggest struggle, Jen, is forgiving myself.
Yeah.
That is like the last on my page. It's like, oh yeah, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. Del, can you forgive yourself? That's
Yeah.
what I struggle with, is
Yeah.
forgiving myself.
Yeah. That's definitely a tough one, because you have to take accountability. Accountability for all the actions that you've taken, all of the things that, you know, all the decisions that you made afterwards, things like that. And it's like, you want to continue to blame other people, and you want to not hold yourself accountable or be responsible. But at the end of the day, you know, forgiving yourself and accepting what's been done by you and to you is a major step.
It's a hard pill to swallow, to be able to say, yeah, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
I'm learning and I'm going to be better.
Yeah.
You know, like it's hard to say that. So
Yeah.
many people are like,
Yeah.
you know, this is who I am. This is how I live. This is me.
Yeah.
And that's not.
And
not how
I'll
you should
say
live.
that, you know, with that, I'm glad that you said that, because we get to decide who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you keep telling yourself, oh, this is me,
Yeah.
then you're right. That's who
You're
you
right.
are.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's what it is. And until you want to do something different, be something different, that's the beautiful thing about life, is that you always have a choice and you can always make a decision to be somebody different. It doesn't matter what your past looks like. It doesn't matter what you've done before, or, you know, just like Theo said, none of that matters. What matters is how you move forward and how you decide you want to be, what kind of person you want to be, what kind of, what do you want to leave behind for people?
Yeah.
You know, all of that stuff. So
you get to make that choice.
Yes, you get to make that choice.
And it's not going to be easy. You're not just going to wake up and be like, oh, I'm going to be different. No, it's going to be, I was just telling her, I was like,
work.
I do gentle parenting. So I was like, I was physically abused as a child. So I choose not to hit my children for the most part. Sometimes I'll smack them. But what I was saying is, typically I'm very gentle, very gentle, very gentle, very gentle. And some days I'm like, babe, you need to come get your kids, because they're about to make me be the old Dell, and I don't want to be her.
Right.
So it's a conscious decision every single day.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
you and I, both of us, are shaped and have been guided our whole lives to be this certain way.
Yeah.
And treat our kids a certain way.
Yep.
And we're looking at that and saying, no, that's not who we want to be.
Right.
And we're going this way when everything in our being is pulling us this way.
You know, one thing that I notice about a lot of adults is they rationalize their decisions saying that, oh, well, this is how I was raised, so that's okay.
Yeah. No, it's not.
You have to be able to realize that, like I said before, that your parents, they weren't given a handbook on how to raise parents, and so, or raise kids. And so as parents, we get to decide how we raise our kids. And just because we were raised a certain way doesn't mean that it's okay and that that's how we treat our kids. Absolutely. So.
Absolutely not. We are not doing that.
So I know that you said that you realized you needed to change when Damien was born, but what happened in your life? Like, you know, what was the major thing where you realized that a change needed to take place? Like, you just started feeling a certain way?
I feel like I said before, I feel like I've always known that something needed to happen, but more recently, which encouraged the drastic change, was being pregnant with Zoe. So when you said, oh, you know, it's different with daughters.
Yeah.
Girl, I was pregnant with Zoe. For those of you who follow me, know that I had a really hard time being pregnant with Zoe. No sugarcoating. I didn't want to be pregnant with Zoe. I wanted to be pregnant with a son named Noah or something. I didn't want to have a daughter. I wanted another son.
But let me point something out. That was because of the trauma.
Yes.
That was because of the trauma that she went through.
Yes. So
trigger.
Yes, trigger. And I didn't know that. So I obviously seeked out professional help, because I'm like, I should not be feeling this way towards my unborn child. With Damien, with Jackson, with Logan, I was in love. I was like, my babies, my boys, I love them. They are just my whole world. I was glowing. I was in love. Over the moon in love. Yeah. So being so detached from Zoe really, really scared me. And apparently it's a thing. It's like postpartum depression, but it's like being depressed while you're pregnant. And so I was going to therapy a lot, trying to figure out things. And it was because I was pregnant with a daughter. It's because I was going to have a little Dell. It's because she was going to be open to all the things that happened to me, because now it was going to be a possibility.
Now you had to protect her.
Yes. And now I'm going to have to do all the girly things. And now I'm going to have a daughter. I don't have a really good relationship with my mom. My mom didn't have a really good relationship with her mother. her mother didn't have a good relationship with her mom, generations and generations of women not connecting. And I was terrified that was going to bleed onto my Zoe. So, I didn't know what to do. And to be honest, I had a dream, and God was like, Zoe's going to bring you healing. She's going to help you heal little Dell.
Yeah.
And that's not something I wanted to do. That's not something I was ready to do.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm not opening this box. Like, just do not. And Zoe was born, and all that changed. I wanted to be better for her. I wanted to go through my box. I wanted to work everything out. I wanted to love me because I want her to love her. And how am I going to show her how to love her if I don't love me? So Zoe changed the game for everything. It's like I wanted to heal for Damien and I wanted to heal for Logan, but Zoe,
that was healing you.
It was healing me. So she was like my point, my breaking point, where it's like, okay, Del, we are going to tear this down. We are going to address it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to heal. We're going to heal through it. We're going to pray through it. And we're going to figure it out. So, I mean, I wish it was a better, juicier story, but it was Zoe. It was Zoe who made me want to be a better me.
Yeah. And I think, the relationship with daughters is definitely a different one than with the boys. I think that, like they say, the mother-son bond is like forever. But, sometimes I think with daughters, you have to really look in the mirror.
For sure. You do.
And
you really do.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, I didn't cuddle up with my mom and cry on her lap about my heartbreaks. I didn't cuddle up close to her and read bedtime stories, or her tell me that she loved me, or my mom's got my back though. Like she's there, but in a different way, a very different way. And so for me to open that door with Zoe, I was like, I don't know how to be a girl mom. I don't know how to give that kind of love. I don't know how to have a relationship with a daughter. The son thing, I got it down. I could have 10 sons. I got this. Yeah. My boys love me. I love them. They cuddle with me. We talk. Like, I got this. Yeah. So having a mother-daughter relationship threw me for a loop, girl. I was like, I was literally scared. I was like, what am I going to do? I'm going to damage her, but so far Zoe's about to be 2 and it's been so good. Yeah.
And, I think with daughters too, dealing with the trauma, and it can be scary because, our daughters, it is scary because, I'll say for me, for instance, being a single mom, it's like, am I doing it right? Are they feeling love? But the thing is, my daughters are teenagers now. And the way that I see it is I know what they need because I needed that at one point. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how I face it. And I try to, that's just how I try to look at it, because at some point, when I was a teenager, I was starving for love. I wanted somebody to hear me. You're going through all of these emotions, and so I feel like that's where it comes in with the daughters and the mother relationship, that you're really looking in a mirror, because you know what they need. You've been there before. And I think that when you say you were scared, is because you really had to face those traumas. And you're just like, I don't want to go there again. I don't want to have to,
open that wound.
Yes. Yeah.
And face my truths. I didn't want to do that.
Exactly.
I'm like, no, I don't want to deal with that.
Right.
Like, I got over that a long time ago. Don't remind me that I didn't have that.
Yeah.
Don't remind me that I didn't have love and I needed that.
Yeah. Like me now, super different from how I used to be. Like now I will call my daughters that are about to be 17 and 16, and I'll be like, oh, come here, babe, come hug me. And like, we'll just lay there and they'll be like, Mom, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just loving you. But things like that, you know, they really do make a difference. Whether the kids realize it or not, they're going to think back on those things.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, wow, my mom really loved me, because a lot of kids don't get that. A lot of kids.
So many kids.
And even me just being vulnerable with my kids and really being honest with them and explaining to them my journey and, you know, where I'm at, where I was at, and, you know, just I'm honest with them so that they'll be honest with me.
Yeah.
So
Sheen's asking if we're live right now. Yes, we are live
yes.
right now.
Right now.
So why do you have questions? Did you want to chime in?
Feel free. She knows her sister, my cousin. So she knows exactly about what we're talking about.
Well, actually, a lot of my siblings and I have different dads. So we have the same mom, but we don't have the same dads. So our experiences were a little bit different, but pretty much summed up the same way.
Yeah, Ching was the one who I think she was the only one who lived with her dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who had a dad right there, right then and there. But I'm not trying to air out her dirty laundry or nothing. But, you know, her dad had his own problems of his own.
Yeah.
You know, and she experienced different kind of trauma than we did, you know?
Yeah.
So even though she didn't have my mom in her life, she had her dad, but it's like the better of two evils, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
yeah.
Well, with that, will the healing ever be over?
No. I was talking to my brother about that this morning. I said, I feel like I went through this traumatic event, right? Mm-hmm. And I take it out of my Pandora box. That's what I always refer it to. I take it out. I deal with it. I clean it up. I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm healed. I've forgiven. Okay, that's done. Out of the way. Mm-hmm. Guess what? It's going to come up with a trigger at some point.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to have to heal from it all over again.
Yeah.
And so like I told him, I said, that trauma is going to stay with me for the rest of my life. But my job is to not let it be me.
Yeah.
It is going to be with me, but it's not going to consume me. I am stronger than my trauma. I am more powerful than my trauma. I'm more beautiful than my trauma. And I think that was a hard truth for me to swallow. I can't tell you how many times I sat in that freaking chair and told my therapist, I don't know why I'm still dealing with this BS. I already dealt with that when I was 14. I dealt with it when I was 17. I remember having a breakdown when I was 21. I remember having a breakdown when I was 22. Yeah. Why am I literally breaking down every 2 months and overwhelmed with all these freaking emotions about the same stuff that I've been dealing with for years? Yeah. Because people think, oh, you deal with it, you're over it. Yeah. That's not really how it works.
No, there's triggers and they'll go off at any time. Right, it can go off monthly, you can go years without having it, and then all of a sudden you spend a whole year dealing with that same thing all over again. Healing is messy.
It is.
And painful.
And I don't think it'll ever be over. And I'm not sad about that. As shocking as that sounds, I'm not sad about that. I'm excited for the growth. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see how well I can deal with it when it comes up. Yeah. I'm excited that I'm getting better at talking about it. Yeah. It's still a little nerve-wracking. It's better for me to talk about it in third person, like as if it wasn't me. Yeah. But we're getting there. And that's exciting to me. That's progress, because I wasn't this way 5 years ago. I wasn't this way even 2 years ago. I've made so much progress in who I am and who I want to be. And I love that I get to decide, and my trauma doesn't get to decide for me. Right. It's like, you're going to be a part of my life. Yeah. And yes, I'm learning to deal with it. But I choose to not let you take my happiness and my joy, because that's what you've done my entire life. Yeah. And I'm just not, I'm not cool with it no more.
It gives me, the word grief is coming to mind. And I think that comes to me because when you heal, an old part of you is literally dying. Like you're becoming a new person, and grief never goes away. You just learn how to deal with it. It's like when somebody dies, you know, you're always going to love them. You're always going to miss them. You know, it could be 30 years later and all of a sudden something pops in your memory and you're just like, oh my God, and the waterworks come. It's always going to be there. But it just gets easier over time sometimes.
Right. I think that all trickles back to forgiveness.
Yeah.
I feel like it's easy to blame my parents, you know. My dad and my mom, this is no diss towards them because they are amazing freaking grandparents. I love them as grandparents. I love watching them with my kids. I don't know if you get that with your mom and your dad.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I love it. I'm
Yes.
like, I don't care what you did to me. You look at my babies, you know, like
Yes.
my kids cuddle up with my mom. They say, Grandma, I love you. Give her hugs and kisses, you know,
Yeah.
and I think that for my mom is healing within itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that she experiences a love through them that she never experienced with us.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I think that's so healing and healthy for her. And I love that she gets to experience that.
Yes.
I love that she gets to experience what love feels like.
Yes.
And the same for my dad. I'm like, you know, my dad don't care about nothing. But one thing I do know is 100% he loves his grandbabies.
Yeah.
And, and that just makes my heart glow in a whole different way. But that forgiveness is key. If I would have never forgiven my mom, if I would have never forgiven my dad or anyone else who has done things to hurt me,
Right.
there would be no growth.
Exactly.
I wouldn't have
They
this
wouldn't have the relationship that they have with their grandkids too. I think
Yeah.
that's a part of it, because a lot of kids will keep the grandkids away from the parents because of the hurt that they've experienced.
Yep.
You know,
Absolutely.
I see that in my family, you know, and it really hurts my heart that, you know, some of my dad's grandkids, he doesn't have access to them. You know, there is no relationship, and you know, I'm not gonna say anything more about that, but it's amazing to really be able to see my dad be a grandfather because
Because
you know,
you forgave him.
yeah. And it's like,
Yeah.
my thing was that my dad really wasn't around, so when we did see him, there was nothing ever, you know, my dad, he wasn't physically abusive, mentally abusive, none of that. It was just the fact that he wasn't there emotionally, you know. And so, you know, it really makes me happy when my son is like, Mom, can I call Grandpa? I want to go hang out with Grandpa. And I'm like, for real?
Yeah.
You know, like those types of things, it makes me really happy. And, you know, not just happy for them, but happy for my dad, because it's like you said, you know, they kind of get a do-over in life, you know, not necessarily a do-over, but they really get to experience that love that they never got. And they get to give it now because they've grown, and, you know, the mistakes that they've made, they're able to realize it, and they want to be not only better parents because, you know, they still have kids, but they get to dote on their grandkids. So, you know, to me, that's absolutely beautiful.
I think that's what made me so sad when Grandma passed.
Yeah.
Is because we all had so much love to give her.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, we didn't.
Yeah.
And we didn't have that relationship with her. And do you know how many times I wish I could have been like, oh, I'm going to go see my grandma. I'm going to go have lunch with my grandma.
Yeah.
Because she was right there. And the hardest part is that she was accessible to some of us.
Yeah.
But not all of us.
Yeah.
So it's like that hurt, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, because you didn't like my mom? Oh, because you didn't like her mom? You know, like,
But then
that's not fair.
some of the kids had the same
Yeah,
mom.
true.
So
But it was hard, you know, like, to accept that.
She said her name is Anna.
I know,
not
I
Sheena.
seen that.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Your mom was not sad when her mom died.
But I think that that's too a part of how we deal with things, you know. It's like sometimes we put it in our heads that, you know, if our parents can't be parents, then they were dead to us a long time ago, or that there was no emotional connection, so you can't mourn somebody who, you weren't really connected to like that.
I mourned what could have been.
Yes.
I mourned that I wanted a relationship with my grandma and there wasn't one. And I feel, I mean, your mom may not be sad, but I feel sad for her.
Yeah.
I feel sad for her, for my mom, for Theo, for everyone who didn't get to experience a mom like me. a mom that shows love and cares what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Just someone who loves you regardless of what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
Like, my mom made mistakes. Okay, who cares? Yeah, my kids make mistakes. I make mistakes. I could do the horriblest thing. And my mom's going to be like, it's cool. It's good. I still got you. You know, because my mom's down for me in her own way.
Yeah.
It may not be with a big hug, a big kiss, a love note, flowers, a heart-to-heart conversation. That's not how my mom shows love.
Right.
If you know my mom, that's not how it goes down.
She GQ.
But she shows love in her own way.
Yes.
And I see that.
And it's genuine.
And I get it.
Very genuine.
You know? And so that's why I'm sad. I was sad. I mourned the relationship that could have been, and my heart was sad because can you imagine what my mom would have been like or what your mom would have been like if they were genuinely and unconditionally loved?
Yeah. Everybody's life would have been different. Half of us probably wouldn't even be here.
I would have been here. They wanted me. I'm just kidding.
We're all
but
accidents.
I mean, I'm not trying to sit and dwell in the past and think of what if.
Yeah.
It's just, dang.
Yeah.
You know, it could have been different. And I don't want that for my kids. So I'm like, it stops. I'm sorry, but I will do until my very last dying breath. I will fight to break that link, break that connection. I will pray every single day that God helps me break that link.
Yeah.
Because I'm done with it.
Yeah.
I'm done with it.
I agree.
I'm so over it.
I agree. Most of the people that, you know, I've had grudges with or things like that, most of it I've let go. But I'm still healing, you know, and there's still a process. And, you know, I think that not all people will have to be in your life. You can forgive people, family included,
from a distance,
and you can love them. You can send them love. As a matter of fact, every day, a part of my ritual waking up, thank you, Working Toward Freedom, Mr. Kevin Howe, there's a ritual that I do now, and I've been doing it for the past 2 years. Every morning I wake up and I say 10 things I'm grateful for, and I send love to 3 people who I haven't forgiven yet or who may need love, and then I forgive myself. Send myself love and then ask for guidance. And it's a ritual that I do every single day because of my mentor.
And I think so. I don't struggle with forgiveness at all, where you kind of do, and then you don't struggle with giving yourself love, which I kind of do. So everybody's journey is different. Everybody's path is different. Everybody's story and resilience is going to be different. And I think that's the most important thing to understand with dealing with someone who has trauma.
Yeah.
Like Jen is pretty resilient from what you see, but you don't know what battle she's fighting on the inside, you know? And it's like the same with me. It's like, I look a hot mess on the outside, but I feel pretty good on the inside. It's just, everybody has their own pace, their own journey, their own story. And, you and I could have experienced the exact same thing and have gotten 2 very different perspectives.
Right. It's
and
like the story I was telling your brother earlier that you know, the story about the two brothers who were raised by their father who was a drunk, and one of the brothers ended up being a drunk and homeless and just, you know, spent his life blaming his dad. You know, I'm like this because of my dad. Where the other brother ended up very, very successful, never touched alcohol in his life. So it all comes down to decisions, you know,
right.
and which path that you decide that you want to take. So, you know, are you going to live in this moment? Are you going to let this determine your outcome? Or are you going to write your story?
And I think too with our siblings, like we all grew up together.
Yeah.
And
we're all so different.
We're so different. We are so different. If you know me and you know my sister and my 4 brothers, we are different.
Very, very different.
Believe it or not, I'm the black sheep. We're very different. I remember growing up and I would say, oh, this is my brother. And they'll be like, that's your brother? Yeah, that's my brother. And they'd be like, hecka tripping. Or I'd be like, oh, that's my sister. And they're like, that's your sister? I'm like, yeah, that's my sister. But I feel like in the
she
other...
said she's the favorite.
Well, I tell all my brothers, it's okay for you to have 2 favorite sisters because we're so different.
Yeah.
It's like they love certain things about her that I don't have or acquire. And then they love things about me that, she's just like, whatever. But I think we're so different. We're just so different.
Yeah.
And we all experienced a lot of the same traumas, whether they want to admit it or not, because I know all my brothers will not admit they have trauma or unresolved issues or unforgiveness that they need to deal with, but they do. And I feel like when they're ready, they will.
Yeah. And I hope that these conversations help them too, because I know that some of them are watching.
Yeah. we just it's like finding light.
Yeah.
And you want to shine it on everybody who's sitting in a dark place. And so I tell my brother all the time, I'm like, just shine some, I'll walk by and shine some light on him. I'm like, there's so much more to your life.
Yeah. Perspective is everything. You know, you can make it beautiful or you can make it ugly. It's like that thing they say,
but
glass half full or half empty.
But you can't go from here and jump to here. You have to walk. And you have to do the work, and you have to heal.
And there's going to be obstacles, and there's going to be times you want to quit, and then you're going to be like, oh, well,
there's
it's not working.
There's always going to be another mountain. You're always going to want to make it move. There's always going to be an uphill battle.
Trust the process. Learn to love it.
If you know, I was singing a song. It's my very loud laugh.
I can hear it now.
I can hear it.
So with that, Del, I want to ask you, who's somebody that has really inspired you, somebody that inspires you to keep going and, not just your whys, like your kids and, your husband, things like that, but who is somebody that you really look up to that's really helped you and kind of just really kept inspiring you when you wanted to stop? Because you got to have a solid support circle.
Yeah. I thought about this question. There has never been a single person in my life who has been solid for me. That I know that I could always count on, that I know that could always be there. Besides my husband and my kids, because Bobby, Bobby. Bobby will ride with me till the wheels fall off.
Whether you're right or wrong.
He's got my back,
Yeah.
like 150%. So besides him, but he is a lot of the reason why I continue to do what I do, is because he has shown me a love that's worth giving. I didn't know that people could love people like that.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter what I do. And I'm not giving myself permission to do anything. I'm just saying, it doesn't matter what I've been through, where I've been, who I've been with, anything, nothing. He does not care. He's like, let's get it. I'm a ride with you. I got it. And I want to give him that in return. I want to be able to love him like that. So that's one of the reasons, is because I want to be a better mom. I want to be a better wife. I think that's always a given. But there hasn't been someone, famous, not famous, that has inspired me throughout my whole life. But more recently, I think it's you, to be honest. And it's because I've been on this journey with you. Even though it's been at a distance and I haven't been right next to you, I've seen your growth.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry.
No, I've seen your growth. And I know it's hard. And I know it's not easy.
Yeah.
And you get up every day and you're still fighting for that growth. And you're still fighting for that better. You're still fighting for that more. You're still fighting for that why. You're still fighting for other people to fight too. And that's inspiring. And so it's like, it's easy.
More along the lines of God or something.
No, but it really is you. I love
Yeah.
seeing it. Like, I see your motivation in the morning and I'm like, dang, I needed that. Or like, oh, dang, that's right. That's right, Jan, you go get it. You know,
So
and you're...
with everything, my mission is accomplished. If I can just inspire one person.
It's so much bigger than that, Jen. You
Yeah.
think, I think that I'm telling you, and that's me being vocal.
Yeah.
Do you know how many other people follow you? Do you know how many other people you interact with that you
Yeah.
are unknowingly inspiring to? Even doing this,
Yeah.
you know, like having these uncomfortable conversations. It's easy to be like, I don't want to talk about that. Let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's not go there. But you do, and that's inspiring. And just, my ride or die back in the day when we were little, my Jen, who was my little pet bull, I've watched you grow and change into a beautiful, beautiful human being who loves God and just wants to spread light and love everywhere. And that within itself is truly genuine. And I appreciate that about you. Don't ever stop.
thank
Don't ever stop doing that.
Love you, Priya. I love you too.
Nobody believes in you more than me. Well, maybe your mama. Maybe your mama does, but you know.
No, that's absolutely beautiful because, you know, even before we had this conversation, I was just like, you know, just you are somebody who inspires me. So I'm glad that we can both be on this journey together and really inspire each other and just keep pushing.
Yeah.
So
It doesn't need to define you.
yeah, absolutely. And just, I think we are probably some of the only ones in our family who have really kind of took the reins on the healing process for ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's a continuous journey. And so I hope that, you know, this reaches somebody who can really take inspiration from the both of us, or, you know, just from our stories and what we've shared. It's a difficult journey. And, you know, when you have people who are doing it and just really going through the growing pains and just super resilient, you know, I hope that in itself gives you the power to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So with that being said, what is one last piece of advice that you would give to somebody who is hurting right now, somebody who's hurting, that needs to heal, that, you know, that really feels something like, you know what, I know that there's something more, there's something different, and this isn't my life. Like, what's one piece of advice that you would give to somebody who's on the edge but is scared to jump?
You know, I was having a conversation with someone not that long ago, and they were talking about me being lucky to having access to therapy. Because if I'm being completely honest, that's the problem with society. So many people struggle because so many people don't have access to good help.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough to be able to, afford therapy, because therapy is expensive. I don't know why mental health is so freaking expensive. It should be given away for free. But
I agree.
and to be consistent, I honestly don't know what piece of advice I can give. Just hold on, and it gets better. You have to work through it. You have to make the conscious decision to want to be better.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something. I totally forgot what I was gonna say.
My mother.
It's free for Tesla employees.
So if you are a Tesla employee, make sure that you take advantage of that benefit.
Yes.
And if you have a spouse who's a Tesla employee, I believe those advantages are also available to you as well.
But even with insurance coverage, it's like, oh, they once a month or whatever. Like, that's not enough. I feel like
Yeah.
there's at least, I promise you, there's at least one person out there who loves you and supports you and will hear you out. And if there's not, you can call me and message me and talk to me. But what was I going to say? I'm so frustrated that I can't remember what I was going to say.
Advice?
What was your question? One piece of
What's
advice.
one piece of advice that you would give somebody who wants a change, who's scared of the process?
Yes. So I was also going to say that with different types of trauma comes different types of healing. So like emotional trauma looks different than obviously sexual trauma or physical trauma. And no trauma is worse than the other. It's like, I don't know, let's say you got disciplined. I know people were like, oh, I want to hear the juicy truths. That's for another time. But let's say you had something going on and you experienced it a certain way. And I'm like, oh, girl, that's nothing. Wait till you hear my trauma.
Don't compare your trauma with anybody else.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Your trauma is valid. Like, so many people say, oh, dang, I'm cool because look at that person went through more than I did. So I should be fine because that person experienced way more than me. I should be counting my blessings. Yeah, that's true. But that doesn't degrade what you've been through and what you've survived and how much you've overcome. Like, I think that should be acknowledged, Like, I don't feel like it should be, because I feel like I found myself doing that a lot.
Yeah.
Like, well, at least I didn't blank, blank, blank. Or at least, at least I had a roof over my head. At least I wasn't homeless all the time.
I mean, it's good to be grateful, but at the same time, it doesn't make your story less important or less traumatizing.
Right.
So, yeah. Be grateful.
Even if you were just bullied at school and that's the only trauma you dealt with. I was
or at home.
Yeah. By your cousins.
And brothers and sisters.
I don't feel like I was ever bullied in school, but there, trauma is trauma, clear across the board, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah.
And that's your truth. And I think that people need to embrace that.
Yes.
Embrace your truth. Embrace it. I think that's the hardest thing. Embrace it, forgiving yourself. For me, that was the hardest thing, forgiving yourself.
And remember, you have the power to change yourself.
You do. You do. You get to decide.
Yeah.
So many people get stuck in this is how I was raised. I'm the product of my environment. No, you're not. I hate to say look at me because I'm a nice and shiny star, but we own our own business. I'm writing a book. I have my homeschool. I have amazing kids. It's possible to break the cycle.
Yep.
It is possible. Is it easy? No. But if you put in the work, you can break the cycle.
Yep. There is a lot of power behind belief. If you believe that you're stuck, then you will continue to stay stuck. But if you believe that you have the ability to write your own future, that you have the ability to change the trajectory of your life, if you believe that you are better than what people say you are, all it takes is belief. That's it. There's so much power in belief. It's like, Thomas Edison created the light bulb.
Where did he come up with that? Who
Right.
knows?
And it's just like he believed that he can create this thing, and he had I don't know how many failures, and people were like, oh well, you failed that many times. He said, no, I succeeded in finding how many times that won't work.
Yeah.
Or how many times that it wouldn't work. So perception, belief, and just
and those who know better do better.
yes.
Those who know better do better.
Yeah. So if you know,
do better.
Yeah.
Be better.
Yep.
You are better.
So, all right, you guys. Well, I appreciate you for sticking with us and being a part of this Facebook Live conversation. If you enjoyed this conversation, if you got something from this, make sure that you like this video, that you share this video, and go on to my YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. Link is in the bio. Just created the Beautifully You podcast. Yay! And that is now on Spotify and Apple. And those links are also in the bio. So make sure that you guys stop by and like and subscribe and share, because it can help somebody.
Because we're changing lives over here. Breaking generational curses. Get on the wagon.
Thanks, you guys. I will see you on the next Facebook Live conversation.
Bye. Peace.